is the crackdown on rough sleepers fair? Measures in the new criminal justice bill would allow police to tackle so-called nuisance rough sleeping by issuing fines and even arresting people. But the Home Office is under increasing pressure to rethink the plans, with objections from Conservative MPs as well as numerous charities. So is it okay for police to move on rough sleepers for causing excessive noise or smells? I mean, this is one of the things, is a person who smells can be arrested under this law if it goes through, Wilfred.
I'm going to come across as being really mean-spirited, but look, I just think it is right. If you are a person that is a rough sleeper in this country, I think it's a choice that you've made to do that.
Oh.
And I tell you why I think it's choice is because there are shelters, there are accommodations available to these people, but there are rules to stay in these accommodations. Like you can't be drunk, you can't be on drugs. And these people choose, I'd much rather be on the streets than having to abide by the rules that are placed on me. So it's all well and good us being very sympathetic, but we have to sort of understand is that there is a choice. There is a choice that these people are making, and you can't change people.
Let me bring in Ish Camp from the homeless charity St Mungos, because Ish, you've been homeless yourself in the past, I know. What do you think of what Wilfred just said?
I think that what Wilfred just said represents what a lot of people think, but is a little bit misguided and misinformed. The most worrying thing is using the term "these people" when talking about rough sleepers. That sort of language worries me. And if we apply that to any other type of people in society, it's quite dangerous to speak about people in that way. I think what's important to remember is everyone is different. A lot of people think that rough sleeping is a choice, but I'm meeting new rough sleepers every single day, every night. St Mungos are out there meeting people that have just left their homes in the last few days. And it's not a choice in most cases. Wilfred's saying there that they have access to shelters. That's not always the case. A lot of night shelters have closed. A lot of support funding has ended. So there aren't as many places for rough sleepers to be able to go. It used to be the case that if you were rough sleeping, you could possibly go into a restaurant or go into a pub to use the toilet or wash. People are cracking down on that because they don't want they all in there, because people believe that homeless people are a nuisance. I completely understand that there are a small amount of rough sleepers that have antisocial behaviour that can be intimidating to local communities, but that's certainly not the case for every person that's rough sleeping.
There was an act called the Vagrancy Act in 1824, so 200 years old this year, and the government has decided at last needs to do that. I suppose update it. But in updating it, Paula, they've made it very precise, and people have said, wait, one of the things is smell. And you can also be arrested now if you look as if you're going to pitch a tent somewhere. What do you think of that?
Well, actually, one of the major criticisms is not so much its precision, but the fact that you have a definition that could be read so broadly and it could capture so many and criminalise so many who actually find themselves in circumstances that was not of their own choice.
Not a choice. You don't agree with Wilfred?
Absolutely not. And you're speaking to a person who has been homeless. I've been homeless on many an occasion. And the only reason why I didn't end up rough sleeping was through the absolute charity of my friends who were able to look after me for short periods of time until I was able to get back on my feet.
So you didn't have a house, or you
didn't have anywhere to live. I had all my worldly possessions in 2 bin bags, which would reduce to 1 big bag, because you know what it's like when you're having to move and at short notice, or you've got nowhere to stay. You can't carry anything. Okay. You've got nowhere to put things.
Let me, because this is where we get lost in this sometimes. Look, there's a difference between temporary needing help, and I'm sure there's lots of places you could go and get help if you have a temporary situation. What I think is interesting
What's the difference, Wilfred?
Well, the difference is that
there are
if it's long
3,000
term,
people on average sleeping rough on our streets.
What I'm trying to say is long term. I'm really interested in this lady here that she said that she used to be a rough sleeper. What changed?
Aisha, what changed?
What changed?
Well, look, I'm not here to talk about me. As I said earlier, everybody's situation is different. And I think what's important to remember is it doesn't matter if it's temporary or not. The issue is that there are people dying on the streets in the UK at the moment. Why are we penalising and criminalising the people that are victim to that? Why are we angry at the people that have no choice about? I mean, how dehumanising to talk about people smelling and putting them in prison for up to 30 days because they smell, because they've got nowhere to wash. Why are we not angry with the government who are responsible for the housing crisis?
They may well be angry, but we're in a sort of secondary phase here, aren't we? We're looking at homeless people and how the authorities deal with them if they do. There's a story that made headlines in December. A homeless man had his sleeping bag soaked by a McDonald's security guard. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
So it was essentially a deliberate soaking, which was to try to move him on from outside the shop, and it's in a way quite a distressing thing to see because nobody wants.
No one likes to see that. But if you've got a shop and you want customers are not going to come into the shop because it's got rough sleepers, the police are not interested. What do you do?
Shall I tell you what we do? We do what we did in COVID, and we provide sufficient refuges
Put them in hotels.
For them to stay in.
Hotels.
We did that, so we know it's possible.
So the point I'm making is this: is that I'm saying that what COVID proved is that if there were shelters available, that I don't want to use the word these people would use that, but there are people who choose to actually camp outside your shop.
Well, Ish is rolling her eyes because she doesn't. It's not a choice. She thinks it's not a choice. Just a second, Ish. Hang on. Let's go to Tony in Cornwall. Are you homeless, Tony?
No, but I have been in my past. I mean, I've slept rough when I was a teenager a long time ago. But I think it's just totally wrong. You've got the most privileged people in the country. The government sort of penalising rough sleepers when really they need some support. To get them out of that lifestyle.
I suppose what they seem to be thinking is that they're getting, this is a London example, but Oxford Street is now essentially a dormitory for people who are homeless. And that they seem to have decided that there are certain things they won't allow homeless people to do. And camping on high streets is one of them.
Yeah, but I think on the surface you can come out with a fact like that, but I think you've got to look at it holistically. So in other words, is the same hostel availability that there used to be? And I mean, I remember in my day there was sort of night shelters and hostels in London where you could stay at least for 3 nights, and then you'd have to have 4 nights out, I think it used to be. But is that hostel provision still there? Because I don't believe there is.
All right, Tony, thank you. Wendy in Carmarthen, hi.
Hello.
What do you want to say?
I think Wilfred, to be honest with you, is talking out of his hat. Because, actually, there is no places for these people to go and have a wash or what have you, and they're smelling. Why doesn't he offer people his home to have a wash in then, if that's the way he feels? He's sitting there, he looks like I can't say the word because it's making me so annoyed. Last week he was speaking about, you wouldn't pay people this much and that much, it depends how much they are worth. This week now is disability, you shouldn't have disability and all this. And then today, this one now, they shouldn't be on the street and this and that. It's a choice. It's not a choice for these people.
All right. Well, hang on. You've had a go at Wilfred. You could have a little response there.
Well, I mean, and that's why I'm interested to know why things change. I'm trying to learn about that. We could be very sympathetic towards people hitting rock bottom, but at the end of the day, what we can't be, their problems can't inflict other people. Like what happens if you've got a shop and you can't open it because it smells because people choose to sleep there. I just don't think that is fair.
I know Ish wants to come back in. Any advice, Ish, for somebody who's watching who is at risk of homelessness?
Yeah, I really just want to make a point about the shop thing, though, because the reason that people sleep outside shops is because they feel safe, because there's cameras, there's lighting, there's people around. There are people on the street. It's so dangerous to live on the street. People die, people are killed, people are abused, they're assaulted. That is why people choose to go to a shop. And I do understand it's very annoying if you own that shop, but then, as your colleague was saying, if there was more shelter available and if we all work together to get people indoors, Mungos agree, we don't want people living outside shops either. We want people safe away from the street. So I agree with you on that, but I just want to explain, people aren't... Yeah, any advice for people that are going to potentially sleep rough is to approach your local authority, reach out to charities like St Mungos. Members of the public, if you see somebody that's rough sleeping and you're worried about them, you can call emergency services. So that is what I would advise viewers to do.
Thank you very much, Aisha. Ish, camp Really nice to talk to you, and thanks for all your work in Hounslow, isn't it?